Lucy Fraser is the current Minister for Digital Culture, Media and Sport. Well, I don't think she does the digital bit because she can't be bothered. But anyway, she has been on the Today programme on the BBC, and she says that the BBC has been biased on occasion. She says that GB News, by the way, is not biased. I think she is in some form of madness or some form of uh, some form of madness, because GB News by definition is biased. I personally think there's nothing wrong with a bias. I think acknowledging that bias is a good thing, and I think we should be having more independent news broadcasting services, like, for example, GB News, like Talk TV, um, but recognizing that there is a bias. I think the bias is slightly too pronounced in GB News and Talk TV, or rather, I think Talk TV and GB News have um, jettisoned their responsibility by picking up ex or current Conservative politicians and putting them as figureheads to man the program. I think there are other people who could do that perfectly well. Tom Thingamy, can't remember his name now, the young lad. I prefer to see him on television rather than Lee Anderson or even Jacob Rees-Mogg. Though Jacob Rees-Mogg is doing a good job, as indeed is Farage. Farage and Rees-Mogg have taken to the airwaves with aplomb. They are professionals. They're very good at it. Nadine Dorries is appalling. Lee Anderson is an embarrassment. But you take your you take your pick. As for Lucy Fraser, the Ofcom, she's on the program because Ofcom has now got new jobs, and it's going to monitor the BBC website. I think on occasion she says that the BBC has been biased, citing its reporting of the hospital attack on Gaza. She refused to say which other broadcasters she believed might be impartial. I don't think that's possible. I don't think a level of impartiality beyond the BBC is possible. But I think the BBC has interpreted impartiality in a very strange way recently. And the BBC understanding of impartiality is to find somebody who has the opposite view to the person you're currently interviewing. So if Lucy Fraser is on the BBC, then presumably we can expect a person from the opposition, a spokesperson from the opposition, to be on. But if the king is being interviewed, who do we get to balance the king? It's a nonsense. This idea that everything has to be balanced. Some things are absolute, and the BBC needs to recognise that not everything is about balance. Bias is not balance, and perceptions. She said that she'd said earlier when she was talking to Sky News that there was a perception amongst audiences that there was bias in the BBC. There are only perceptions, and perceptions are important. What's important about the BBC is it's funded by the public, so the perception of audiences of the public are important. Well, actually, we may have a perception of something, and it may be wrong. And I think the impartiality of the BBC as a concept is an established fact. I think the way it embraces that concept of impartiality is something that can be tinkered with and something that can be adjusted. But I don't think it's up for dispute that the BBC is impartial. And I think she is wasting her time and wasting money by insisting on further scrutiny of the BBC. It's just madness, particularly when she thinks, in contrast, that GB News is impartial, is not biased. Madness.